for today. This is the last Sunday in the liturgical calendar. The Thanksgiving meal has been cooked. The turkey has been eaten. The Black Friday shopping has been done. The family has returned home, and we are left exhausted with leftovers, dreading when the alarm clock goes off on Monday morning. And those of us who dragged ourselves out of bed this morning come to church just to hear about sheep and goats, eternal fire and eternal punishment. Almost makes you want to run for the hills. This parable has often been used to instill fear of God's judgment. There just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of good news in this passage. It seems like there's a checklist of what we need to do to be good sheep, right? Feed the hungry, check. Give drink to the thirsty, check. Welcome the stranger, clothe the naked, take care of the sick, and visit the prisoners, check, check, check. Those seem like things that a good person would do, right? Or maybe a good neighbor would do. Now we're on to something. These are all things that we have seen Jesus do. And we as Lutherans know that we are saved by grace, not by what we do. So, this isn't really a checklist, but an example of what it means to love your neighbor. Because grace cannot be earned. It is a gift. In the gospel today, we see that those on the left, after Jesus said what they didn't do, asked him, "But when was it that we saw you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or in prison?" Doesn't that sound something like a teenager would say to their parent? I remember times that my mom would come home early and catch us girls doing something we weren't supposed to. It was usually my sister Kara that would tell my mom that, if you hadn't come home early, you would have never known. She was trying to point out that it was my mom's fault for showing up early and not ours for doing what we weren't supposed to. Deflecting didn't work real well with my mother. My mom would tell us that she was supposed to be able to trust us all the time, not just when we knew she was coming home. Doesn't that sound familiar? It was just a couple of weeks ago that we heard the parable of the 10 bridesmaids. That parable ended with, "Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." So this isn't about a checklist. It's about grace. Because grace opens our eyes to see things that we might otherwise miss. It is grace that lets us know that if one day we ask the question, "Lord, when did we see you?" And Christ the King will tell us, "When did you not see me?" This is not a checklist, but a description of what Christ's kingdom looks like. Now, we all have an idea in our minds about what a king should look like or what a king should do. How many of us pay attention to the royal family? I know if Vera was here, she'd be like raising her hand because she watches all of that. So how many of us watched the wedding between Prince Charles and Diana? Or maybe William and Kate? Or how about Meghan and Harry? How many of you had to watch it because your spouse wanted to? We get fascinated as we watch to see what kind of fancy dress the bride will be wearing, what jewelry she will have on, which tiara she's going to wear, how is her interaction with the queen, and what celebrities were present. And the media watches and reports on every look given, even on the body language used. And we soak it all up. We have in our minds what a royal should look like, what a king should look like. Jesus didn't look like what a king should look like. He was born in a manger. The royals in England weren't born in a manger. I watched The Crown. The queen gave birth at the palace. Jesus didn't come to be served, he came to serve. And that wasn't what the people thought a king should be. Even though things didn't fare so well for the kings in the Old Testament, the examples of the kings in Jesus' time. But Jesus is the king we needed and still need today. Today's gospel is not a checklist, but a description of what it means to be a disciple of Christ, a follower of Jesus. No one said that being a Christian would be easy. To be a follower of Jesus means that the description in today's gospel becomes second nature, a habit, if you will. A study from the European Journal of Social Psychology found it takes between 18 and 254 days to form a habit. Do we have to intentionally keep feeding the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, welcome the stranger, clothe the naked, take care of the sick, or visit the prisoner so that it becomes habit? What if we just allow ourselves to be who God created us to be? In the first reading today, Ezekiel declares that the Lord will assume the role of shepherd in Israel. I myself will be the shepherd of my sheep, and I will make them lie down. I will seek the lost, and I will bring back the strayed. I will bind up the injured, and I will strengthen the weak. The Lord continues to say, I will save my flock. I will set up over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he shall feed them. He shall be their shepherd, and I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David shall be a prince among them. Now, St. Francis of Assisi said, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. Let's think about that. Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. Meaning we should show with our actions what it means to be a follower of Jesus. We don't have to go around announcing we are Christians. We don't have to have a neon sign over our head with an arrow pointed down on us saying, Christian, right here. Our actions will and should speak for us. Sometimes the most important things in life are what we see no real significance in at the time. Can you imagine what our world would look like if we just be who God created us to be? Now, we have spent the entire time after Pentecost remembering who we are and whose we are. This is Christ the King Sunday, the last Sunday of the liturgical year. We are now moving into Advent, the season of waiting and preparing for that first Noel when we can sing, Born is the King of Israel. And as the shopping, the decorating, and the partying commences, let us all be who God created us to be. Amen.